Yo, listen up, Rue is stepping up the game, where fantasy Premier League runs in his veins. From transfers to captains, he's always on top, guiding you through every game week non-stop. They say Rue got that Salah flow. Welcome to the channel, enjoy the show. Wild cards, free hits with so much vibe. If you're hunting for success, then make sure you subscribe.
Good day, mate. Welcome back to the channel. I'm FPL Root and welcome back to another FPL video. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at my current draft. This is my new draft. It is a little bit different than my first one. Definitely go check that out if you haven't seen it already. But we'll get straight into it. If you are new, subscribe to the channel. FPL content twice a week minimum. And yeah, help you kind of rise up the ranks and win your mini leagues, hopefully. Anyway, we'll start off with the goalkeeper. But first, I just want to look at something on this website. So we're going to look at the chance of clean sheet and what teams we're going to be looking to target for the goalkeeper and defender positions. So Man City are top in terms of probability percentage-wise for clean sheet. Arsenal second, Brighton, Man United, and so on. So really, we want to look at Man City, Arsenal, Brighton, and maybe Man United. We'll go back to the players. In terms of expected points, that obviously reflects the clean sheets normally. But obviously keepers can keep save points too. But we'll go for someone that I think can get save points. Maybe not as much as the keepers lower down in the league, but definitely can get save points. Edison, yep, good shout, 5.5 million. But for me, it doesn't make enough saves. So I'm going to go for Ramsdale. And they have Forest at home, Arsenal, Palace away, and Fulham at home. So he is the most selected goalkeeper in the game, and I think for a good reason. At 5 million for a team that came second last year, probably should have won the league. I think that's a bargain. By the way, I'm using Draft Hound website. If you want to check it out, look at the link in the description below. Next up, the defense. So again, we're kind of looking at, we've got the Arsenal defender in, so I don't want to focus too much on another. I don't want to double up on Arsenal. So next up is City. And for me, yes, they are a minute's risk. But I feel like John Stones is going to start. I think he's too good and too crucial to City and the way they play for him not to start. It's likely Walker will be leaving this season, and obviously Cancelo. So I think Stones could play right back, could play centre back. So I feel like he is probably the most nailed out of the defence. I did think about Akanji just because Walker is going to probably leave. But for me, I think I'd rather Stones if he does drop into midfield. And he did get a couple of goals last season playing in that position. In terms of 6 expected points, he is the second highest defender over the next 3 game weeks, so 13.8. We're also going to add the person that is expected to score the most points, so Trent. Yes, Liverpool's fixtures in terms of probability for clean sheet is not the best, but the guy's a joke. Like, he scores and assists like a midfielder. So for me, if he is playing that midfield role again, trying to maximize my points, not just looking at clean sheets, looking at people that can score, get further forward, then I think Trent is probably a must-have for me. I have seen some drafts without Trent, and I just can't see the money utilized well enough for me to leave out Trent, if that makes sense. So say you're going to drop him down to a 5.5 million or 6 million defender, you're saving 2 million, 2.5 million. I just can't see where you're going to use that. If you wanted to kind of get Salah and Haaland in your team, then you're going to need more than that. If you wanted to upgrade a couple of positions, then you don't need that much. So for me, I think Trent is a straight pick, and he's staying in that team for me. Next up is obviously the Brighton defense is good, so I have gone for Stupinan. He did so well for me last year, especially towards the end. That goal and clean sheet against Arsenal away was a bonus. He's expected to score 12.9 points over the first 3, and Brighton's fixtures do look really, really good. So Luton at home, Wolves away, and West Ham at home, and they kind of carry on until further on as well. So even the next 5 game weeks is averaged to score about 4 points, which is really, really good. But after the first 3, they've got Newcastle and Man United, but then they've got Bournemouth, Villa, Liverpool, City. So Stupinan does look good for the first 3, but maybe reevaluate or have someone on your bench ready to come on, ready to play after that. But obviously you don't want to be making transfers. So, but like I said, he did do well last year against everyone. So he's not really a player that you need to worry about playing against some of the bigger teams. Next up, we do have some bench options. So obviously we all know how well Newcastle's defence was last season. Yes, their fixtures are pretty bad to start with. We'll have a look here. So Villa, City, Liverpool, Brighton, Brentford, tough start, all top 8, top 9 teams. But then they have a really, really good change in fixtures. They've got Sheffield United, Burnley, West Ham, Palace, Wolves. So for me, that's why I'm having Botman on my bench. I just think for 4.5 million and how good Liverpool's defence was last season, I think Botman is a great price. Trippier, too expensive for me, 6.5 million. Shah's probably a better option, but I don't want 5 million defenders sitting on my bench. So for that reason, I'm going to go for Botman. So next up, we've got another spot for the defence. So I'm going to go for a 4 million defender. We'll have a quick look at who's expected to score the most points. And yes, it's the player I'm going for. So Bulldog, wing back for Sheffield United. Good fixtures to start with, to be honest. So Palace at home, Forest away, but then obviously he does have City at home too. But even after that, Everton, Spurs, Newcastle, West Ham, Fulham, Man United, and then it gets a bit tougher. But for me, now that Bell is going to be missing game week 2 because Luton Stadium is not going to be ready. So I think Bulldog is the best 4 million defender, as obviously Burnley and Luton play each other in that game week 2. So that's why they're both missing games. So that's the defense. Yes, Botman won't be starting, but we'll sort that out when we get all the other players in and sort their formation out. But next up, we'll move on to the midfielders. So obviously you got the likes of Salah, Saka, all at the top, and Saka is a player I'm going to be bringing in. I'm going to be starting the season with him. I've seen people go for Martinelli. I've seen people go for Odegaard, but for me, Saka's got penalties. He's got goals. He's got assists. I don't think he's going to be rotated as much as Martinelli, where Trossard can play on the left, maybe even Havertz. And I prefer him over Odegaard. So for me, Saka is a essential pick for your first draft, for your first team. So 16.2 points expected. And yeah, like I said, with Ramsdale, really good fixtures to start the season with. Next up, as we go down the kind of expected points list, Bruno Fernandes for me is going in. Again, it's the penalties. I'd much rather him over Rashford. Rashford was great last season, don't get me wrong, but penalties, Fernandes did well towards the end of last season. I think now that Man United might be getting a midfielder in that can do Eriksen's role in a bit more solidly, if that makes any sense. Whereas Mount, I think he can graft, where Eriksen, I don't think he can. He's more of a making things happen, set pieces, etc. And I feel like Bruno Fernandes didn't really perform as well with Eriksen in the team. But now with Mount there, I feel like Fernandes can play that number 10 role and just stick there, really, because sometimes he was even dragged out to the left or right. Hopefully, Man United can get forward so Rashford can stay on the left. So that's the reason I've gone for Bruno. 14.9 points expected over the first 3 games. Next up, as we scroll down the list, but first of all, we'll look at the fixtures again. So we look at chance of teams scoring 2 goals. So obviously Brighton's up there again. So we're probably going to want to get a Brighton midfielder. Yes, Arsenal and City. We've got an Arsenal, so probably a City as well. We'll have a quick look at the Brighton and City midfielders. So I'm just trying to really target that them good fixtures to start the season with. So as you can see, Grealish, number 1, 15.6 points expected. De Bruyne maybe will be injured for the start of the season. It is looking likely he will be. So stay away from him. Mahrez is probably going to be leaving to Saudi, so stay away from him. So next up for me is Foden. I do prefer Foden over Grealish. Now that Mahrez has left, Foden can play on the right. He can play in the middle, obviously, because De Bruyne is likely to be injured. So I really like the look of Foden, especially for that price point. 12.5 points expected over the first three. Burnley away, Newcastle at home, Sheffield United away. Two newly promoted sides in your first three games for the best team in the league. You can't really argue with that. That's why I feel a Man City treble up is essential. Matoma is the top Brighton asset, and that's who I'm going for. 6.5 million. Yes, there's an argument for Gross and for March, but for me, Matoma looks the most threatening, and that's what I want in my team. Yes, he might not be on penalties, but he could be on penalties, I guess, because McAllister has left, but it's probably going to be Gross or maybe even March. But for me, I just prefer Matoma. Definitely a much better player to watch than Gross or March. Next up is kind of my wild card pick, and it kind of depends on the transfer happening, but I feel like this transfer will happen. So we're going to go for a player that will likely be playing for Brentford, but currently plays for Forest. Listed as a midfielder, will probably play up front for Brentford, and that is Brennan Johnson. Yes, and Bremo, a lot of people have in their team, but you're saving 0.5 million by going Johnson, and he's likely to be playing up front. Brentford, if he does go to Brentford. If he doesn't, I wouldn't be bringing him in my team, as Forest have horrible fixtures to start with. So they've got Tottenham, tough game, Fulham away, Palace at home. But let's look at their fixtures kind of after that. Bournemouth, Newcastle, Everton, Forest, United, Burnley. So for me, if he does move and he does look like he's going to be playing up front, I think Brennan Johnson is a great pick. 0.9% owned as well. We've seen how good he can be on FPL. Yes, not as consistent as you'd probably want, but for 6 million, is he going to be playing up front to cover Tony? I think so. Again, if he does move, and I think he is probably that slight, I won't say better option, but as good option as Mbeumo, cheaper, and probably going to be playing up front. And who knows, he could be on penalties too. So that's my little wild card pick for this draft. Next up, we've got the forwards. As a person that is top of the forwards, that I'm probably sure that nearly 100% of you, actually 85% of you, have him in. Haaland predicted to score 23.4 points. Ridiculous. To be honest, it's just ridiculous, and obviously he's going to be captain. No point even debating that. There's not really much to say with City's fixtures. 2 newly promoted sides in the first 3 games is a joke. Again, like I said, for the best team in the league. So yeah, Haaland is a must-have, but please be wary. I think later on in the season, City will have a blank as they play the Club World Cup, so keep that in mind, but there's nothing to worry about for now. My next forward is going to be Gabriel Jesus. Like I said, Arsenal's fixtures are really, really good. Forest at home, Palace away, Fulham at home, and yeah, 8 million is a bargain for me for Jesus. He started the season well last year. Yes, he's not as clinical as you'd probably want from a striker. For example, Kane and Haaland, but you're paying literally near enough half the price over Haaland. So 7 million. Well, I mean, my maths, 6 million difference. So and I can't see any other forwards that I want. Obviously, I want Kane. Too much money for me, especially over his future's not settled at the moment. So for me, I think Jesus is a really, really good option and a really good value for money, which is kind of what you want in your team. You want players that are going to score well for their price, and then the big hitters can do their stuff. We'll pick the sub goalkeeper now. Kind of done this a bit backwards, but it's fine. I have gone for Areola. There's rumours that he will be starting over Fabianski, so for me, I'm willing to take that risk. I think Ramsdale's going to start every game, so it's not a big deal if not. But it would be nice to have a goalkeeper that does start on your bench just in case. I won't talk about too much about him because he probably won't be playing anyway. But for my last spot, for my forward spot, my bench forward potentially could play depending on how well he does. I did have 5 million to spend. as there's not really many forwards at 4.5 that are going to play. And Adebayo is top of the expected points for 5 million or below forwards, but he obviously does miss a game. So for me, I've gone for Vinicius, the Fulham striker. So yes, obviously Mitrovic is their number one striker, but as we saw when he was banned last year, Vinicius done really, really well. He's only 3.7% selected in team, so a really good differential. And Mitrovic has come out and said that he wants to go to Saudi. So if he does, Vinicius would likely be their number one forward. He'll be their number 9. We've seen he can score goals like he did last season. Obviously, we might not be using him that much anyway, but if his fixture's good and someone else is not good, there is potential. Everton, Brentford, Arsenal, City. So pretty tough start. But then they've got Luton, Palace, Chelsea, Sheffield United. So if you do need him for the odd game, I think he's fine. So, but for 5 million, I think it's a great bench option. And when there's not really any others that stand out for me, we'll just quickly sort the bench out. So I always like to have the forward in the first spot. We'll swap this over, and then we'll probably start Brennan Johnson over Botman. Yeah, so that's how the team's looking. Captain will be Haaland, vice captain Saka. If you have enjoyed this video, please make sure you smash a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and check out Draft Town with the link below. It's a great website, and you can see expected points. You can see teams most likely to have clean sheets, to score goals, etc. But let me know below what you think of my draft. It is expected to score 60.5 points. Average minutes of 73, so pretty good. And yeah, let me know below what you think of this draft. Cheers.